Karen called my decommissioned howitzer a violation, so I made it the centerpiece of my lawn. Have you ever had a neighbor who turned a harmless quirk into a neighborhood war? Picture this. A quiet Sunday morning, the smell of fresh coffee in the air, and a gleaming, decommissioned howitzer sitting proudly on my front lawn. It was my pride and joy, a relic from my grandfather's military days, lovingly restored and harmless as a garden gnome. But to Karen, my next-door neighbor, it was a monstrosity and a threat to community safety. One snide comment from her sparked a feud that would turn our sleepy cul-de-sac into a battleground of wills, with my howitzer at the heart of it all. It started innocently enough. I'd inherited the howitzer from my grandfather, a World War II veteran who'd served with distinction. The cannon was a family heirloom, fully decommissioned, incapable of firing, and mounted on a concrete base as a tribute to his service. I'd spent months restoring it, polishing the barrel to a mirror shine and painting it a respectful olive drab. It wasn't just a decoration, it was a piece of history, a conversation starter, and a way to honor my family's legacy. Most neighbors loved it. Kids would pose for pictures, and veterans would stop by to share stories. But Karen? She saw it as a personal affront. Karen marched over one morning, her phone already out, snapping photos like she was building a case for the FBI. "This is a violation," she barked, waving a copy of the HOA bylaws. "Weapons aren't allowed in front yards, and this thing is scaring my kids." I tried to explain it was decommissioned, no more dangerous than a lawnmower, but she wasn't having it. "It's aggressive. It's triggering. I'm reporting this to the HOA before I could respond." She stormed off, leaving me dumbfounded. Triggering? It was a museum piece, not a loaded bazooka. I laughed it off, thinking she'd cool down. I was wrong. The next day, a letter from the HOA arrived, citing a vague community standards clause and demanding the howitzer's removal within 48 hours. Karen had gone full throttle, rallying a few other neighbors to her cause with tales of potential danger and lowered property values. Couldn't believe it. This wasn't just about a cannon, it was about Karen's need to control everything. I'd seen her in action before, complaining about Mrs. Larson's tacky flamingo statues, demanding Mr. Chun trim his hedges to an exact height, even reporting a kid's lemonade stand for unpermitted commerce. She thrived on power, and my howitzer was her latest target. I wasn't about to let her win. I dug into the HOA bylaws myself and found a loophole. The rules banned functional weapons, but my howitzer was a decorative artifact, no different from a statue or a fountain. I called a lawyer friend who confirmed I was in the clear. But Karen's petition was gaining traction, and whispers of a special HOA meeting to address the issue were spreading. I needed to fight fire with fire, or in this case, artillery with attitude. If Karen wanted a war, I'd give her one she'd never forget. The HOA meeting was set for a Friday evening at the community center, and the tension was palpable. Karen arrived early, armed with a PowerPoint presentation titled, "The Dangers of Militarized Lawns." She'd even roped in a nervous-looking couple from down the street to testify about how the howitzer intimidated their poodle. I showed up with my own ammunition. A stack of documents proving the howitzer's decommissioned status, photos of similar displays in public parks, and a surprise ally, Mr. Thompson, a retired history teacher and Vietnam vet who'd taken a shine to my cannon. Karen's presentation was a masterclass in exaggeration. She flashed grainy photos of my howitzer, zooming in on the barrel as if it could level the neighborhood. "This is not a decoration, it's a weapon," she declared, her voice quivering with theatrical outrage. "What kind of message are we sending our children?" The room murmured, some nodding along, others looking skeptical. Then came the twist. Mr. Thompson stood up, unprompted, and cleared his throat. "I've seen real weapons, Karen," he said, his voice steady but sharp. "That howitzer is a tribute to men like my brothers, who fought for this country. It's no more dangerous than your garden gnomes, and frankly, it's got more class." The room erupted in chuckles, and Karen's face turned beet red. It was my turn to speak. I laid out the facts. The howitzer was decommissioned, certified safe by a military historian, and compliant with HOA rules. I showed photos of kids smiling beside it, veterans saluting it, and even a local newspaper article praising it as a unique community landmark. But I didn't stop there. I turned the tables, pointing out Karen's history of petty complaints and her obsession with controlling the neighborhood. "This isn't about safety," I said, looking her in the eye. "It's about one person's need to dictate how we all live." The crowd shifted uncomfortably, and Karen's allies started to waver. The vote was close, but reason prevailed. The HOA ruled 6-4 to let the howitzer stay. Karen was livid, storming out with a promise to take this higher. I thought that was the end of it, but she wasn't done. Over the next week, she escalated her campaign, plastering "no weapons in our neighborhood" flyers on mailboxes and posting rants on the local X page, complete with hashtags like dangerous decor and HOA violation. She even called the city, claiming the howitzer violated zoning laws. The city inspector, a no-nonsense guy named Dave, came by, took one look at the cannon, and laughed. "This thing's deader than disco," he said, signing off on its legality. But Karen's antics were starting to backfire. Her flyers were mocked online, with neighbors posting memes of her face photoshopped onto a tank. The X posts drew comments like, "Karen needs a hobby that isn't harassing people," and "that howitzer's the coolest thing on the street." Even her nervous allies began distancing themselves, tired of her drama. Then came the final blow. At the next HOA meeting, Mrs. Larson, the flamingo-loving retiree, proposed a motion to limit frivolous complaints, citing Karen's pattern of harassment. The motion passed overwhelmingly, and Karen was officially warned to back off or face fines. Defeated, Karen retreated into silence, her crusade against my howitzer crumbling under the weight of her own overreach. I didn't just let it end there, though. To celebrate, I turned the howitzer into the centerpiece of my lawn, adding a small plaque dedicating it to veterans and freedom. I hosted a neighborhood barbecue, inviting everyone except Karen, though she could have come if she'd swallowed her pride. Kids played around the cannon, veterans shared stories, and Mr. Thompson gave an impromptu history lesson. The howitzer wasn't just a relic anymore. It was a symbol of standing up to bullies and honoring what matters. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about a cannon, it was about fighting for the right to be yourself in a world full of Karens trying to control you. My howitzer still stands proud, gleaming under the sun, a reminder that sometimes the best way to win a war is to hold your ground with a little heart and a lot of grit. So, what do you think? Was I right to dig in and defend my howitzer, or should I have compromised to keep the peace? Share your thoughts. I am all ears.